In the haunted depths of Brentwood Forest, a broken man hunts for his daughter, but something ancient and terrifying is hunting him. Welcome to Krane Originals, home of original fantasy tales set in Sha'Rune, a world of mystery, heartbreak, and triumph, touched by just the right amount of magic. If you crave new original stories every week and enjoy what you see, then don't forget to hit that like and subscribe and enjoy the adventure. Now, let the tale begin. This is the story of the Bandit and the Bear. In the year 1687 of the Second Era, Brutania was a nation known for many things. From its great vineyards, to its beautiful roaming mountain ranges, to its forests as thick and old as time. But recently, the southern lands had grown equally infamous for something far darker. The frequent and devastating raids conducted by the harsh and ruthless savages from Argmouth. These barbarians crossed the southern border driven by hunger, desperation, and unchecked violence, leaving terror in their wake. But this is not a tale of Brutania's pain or its innocent victims. This is the story of an Argmouth raider named Jorick, a desperate man whose tragic choices had finally caught up with him, and his perilous pursuit to reclaim the one thing left of value he had in this shattered world, his daughter, Alma. It was deep into the night when Jorick, exhausted and heartbroken, silently walked through the dense forest. His arms and legs ached with pain as he struggled to move. He was tired and beaten. The memories of the attack was fresh in his mind. It had been only 2 days since his world was turned upside down, and almost everything he held dear was taken from him. For months he had raided and pillaged helpless villages without an ounce of remorse. Yet now, here he was, a broken and lost man in the woods of a foreign country. All he could think about now was not vengeance, but how many souls he had hurt, how many he had caused to feel the same loss he was now facing. If not for the memory of his wife's final words before she was struck down by Brutanian soldiers burned into his mind, he might have given up. All he could do now was repay her death, her final gasp as she whispered their daughter's name, Alma. The screams of his people haunted him, intertwined with the cries of the villagers he had attacked, killed, and taken everything from. His cousin Eric's face would randomly flash before him throughout the night, sometimes bloodied and lifeless, as he had been in the end, and at other times, Eric appeared younger, as if they were back home, asking him if they should go north, almost taunting him. If it weren't for the pain, Jorick might have lost his mind to grief. But the pain he felt was almost a blessing. It kept him focused, and in a way, it kept him sane. The sun would rise, and Jorick would not rest. He had already lost enough time after passing out just a day ago. He knew he had fallen behind and had no idea where the soldiers were taking his daughter. He could only hope that she was still alive. And yet, he wondered why they hadn't killed her like they had with everyone else. Was it her age? Was her youth too innocent for them to harm? The thought was almost too overwhelming for him to bear. He and his men, his people, had never shown such mercy to the young of Brutania. Now, here he was, a savage from the south, praying to the gods that the soldiers of the people he had been attacking would show mercy that he himself would never have given them. It would take days for him to track down the Brutanian soldiers. Despite not being native to the land, he had learned the layouts of the land in the past year, and the soldiers made it easy for him to follow the trail. Their confidence was their downfall. They didn't bother to cover the tracks and marched in a group on horseback, leaving a clear path for the bandit to pursue. Finally, after 4 days of tracking them, he would catch up with them. Concealed in the shadows, Jorick studied the encampment. At first, his heart raced as he saw no sign of his daughter. But then he spotted her. Alma lay in chains inside a rough wooden wagon at the center of the camp. Her fragile form was barely visible beneath a thin blanket, but it was her. He was sure of it. The sight of her ignited a fury within Jorick. For a moment, he felt no pain as he gripped the ground beneath him, ready to charge forward. He didn't know how he would reach her, but he was determined to try. Yet, reality would set in when a few guards approached his daughter, tossing her bread and water at her feet. The girl scampered toward the food like a puppy starved for weeks. He wanted to save her. He wanted to be brave and redeem himself for leaving her. Why wasn't I braver? He thought to himself. His fury washed away. It was replaced once more by guilt. Here she was in chains, without a mother or anyone else in this world to help her. He had told himself he ran away for her sake, fleeing in hopes of returning. But deep down, Jorick knew the truth. He had been scared to die like everyone else. Frustration and despair began to take root, clouding his mind with dread. Jorick's breathing became ragged, and it felt like his heart was racing 1,000 times per second. The bandit began to sweat as panic overwhelmed him. How can he save her? He felt useless, so helpless for the first time. And now alone, injured, without even a weapon. But just as he struggled to remember how to breathe, a profound silence enveloped the forest. A wind seemed to come from nowhere, blew through the trees, and the birds fell silent. And the sunlight dimmed, despite it being midday and the sky largely clear. The soldiers quickly noticed the change. The camp grew quiet, their banter fading. Some grasped their weapons nervously, searching the surroundings as if sensing an impending danger. What happened next happened fast. It arrived swiftly and without little warning. A creature stepped from the forest, casting an enormous shadow around it. As it emerged fully into view, it did so slowly, almost tauntingly. It was unlike anything the soldiers had ever seen before. They thought it resembled a bear, or at least that was the closest comparison they could make. The beast was monstrous in size, its body cloaked in fur so dark it seemed almost unreal, as if it were a painting come to life, like a living shadow. Its massive frame radiated power, and its eyes glowed with a chilling purple light, as if possessed by something far worse than the creature itself. The beast let out a terrifying roar and charged, its teeth unnaturally white, almost like marble. Its voice shook the hearts of each man. Even Jorick felt its might in his chest from afar. Screams erupted throughout the camp. Some soldiers fled, but most stood their ground, ready to fight. However, it did not matter either way. The bear tore through the ranks of men. Their weapons seemed to have no effect. It wasn't that the beast was too large or its hide too thick. It was as if their attacks faded into the shadowy figure of the creature. It was hollow to them, solid only when it struck, and one by one it tore through the ranks. Jorick initially watched in horror, momentarily frozen by fear and shock at the utter violence he was witnessing. Flesh and bone were being torn and broken apart before him, and all he could do was watch, unsure of what he should or could do. But as he observed the chaos, he felt his heart sink. Alma was flung from the wagon as the beast snarled around, breaking and destroying everything in its path. Jorick's eyes widened with fear, but also determination as he saw his little girl trying to escape, her body trembling with terror as she crawled away like an infant, away from the beast. They both hoped and prayed it would not see her. With her life hanging by a thread, Jorick pushed through all his fears, knowing that he might die, and ran to his daughter, scooping her up in the middle of the chaos. At first, Alma was in shock. She couldn't believe it was her father who had come for her. She had thought everyone else was dead, and that she was an orphan now. It felt like a miracle. A smile appeared on her face as she wrapped her arms around him tightly. However, her relief was short-lived as the roar of the beast jolted her back to their dire situation. Gripping her father now out of fear, Jorick wasted no time. He ran, stopping only for a moment when Alma screamed after seeing the bear charging directly at them. The bandit glanced back and held his daughter tightly, turning away in hopes of absorbing the worst of it for her. But just before the creature reached them, they heard screams, cries of agony coming from the beast. Jorick once again turned around and was in awe of what he saw. Fire engulfing the beast. Soldiers wielding torches began to attack it. Finally, something seemed to slow down the monster. But Jorick did not linger. Now wanting to give the soldiers a chance to notice them, he tightened his grip around Alma and dashed into the forest, praying to the gods that no one or thing would follow them. Clutching Alma tightly, Jorick ran as fast as he could, disregarding his own safety and pain. They listened from a distance as a massacre unfolded. The bear's screams had ceased, leaving only the horrifying cries of the soldiers. They were uncertain how much the fire had harmed the bear, but from the soldiers' screams, it was clear that the beast was still alive. Jorick pressed on. Pain coursed through his body as his wounds reopened, and fresh cuts from branches left a trail of blood behind. Alma clung to him, her small hands gripping him desperately, hoping that somehow she could give him the strength and ensure he would never stop running until they were safe. And indeed, she gave him strength. Despite everything, Jorick ran, walked, stumbled, and crawled with her in his arms for hours. His lungs burned and his limbs ached more than he had ever experienced. Every heartbeat felt like a plea for mercy. Just as he thought he could go no further, he felt the trembling body of his little girl. He would continue. He would not stop. This time, not until his daughter was safe. Night fell once again, and with nothing left in him, Jorick stumbled into a pile of leaves and collapsed. His body pulsed with a soreness he had never experienced before, and his feet throbbed with an almost grateful sensation that they were no longer in use. Alma quickly shook her father to make sure he was okay. Jorick managed to smile, using what little strength he had left to caress his daughter's face, forcing a smile before losing consciousness. The man was truly running on empty. Alma took one last look around, closing her eyes and trying to focus on the sounds surrounding her. Nothing, she thought. So not willing to leave her father, the girl nervously crawled to him, grabbed his arm, and hid under his embrace for the night, hoping that morning would come and the creature would be nowhere to be found. But the rest would be cut short as the sun just began to rise. So only a few hours of rest would be given before father and daughter would jump awake, the roars of the beast echoing throughout the forest, and the airy wind blowing past them, almost like it was guiding the creature to them. "Leave me," Jorick screamed at his daughter. "I will hold him off. Run to the south to find our kin," the bandit demanded of her, pushing her away as he struggled to stand. "Go!" the father shouted to his daughter. But as the roars of the beast grew closer and the wind grew stronger, the man watched his daughter, frozen in fear, looking at her father, begging him not to leave her, not with her words, but with her eyes. "Go!" the man screamed again, pointing for her to run. But Alma was scared, just as afraid to be left alone in this world again as she was for the beast to be coming after them. Jorick pleaded and begged, warning her that he would only slow them down. But as the beast grew closer, Jorick finally saw the creature, its black, shadowy fur receding in the distance. It was running right at them, hunting them. With no more time, and Alma clearly unwilling, Jorick gritted his teeth and grabbed his daughter's wrist, unable to carry her like he did before. The man began to limp away, pulling his daughter as fast as he could with him. The man grunted in fear and pain as he heard the beast grow closer and closer. There was no way the two of them could outrun him. He did not know what to do. What could he do? All he wanted to do was to save his daughter. The two stumbled down the hill to the riverbank. The current was strong but not very wide. With no other choice, Jorick pulled his daughter close, and as quickly as possible, they crossed the narrow river. The current pulled at them, but they didn't fight it. Alma couldn't swim, so Jorick held her tightly, guiding them to the other side. As they reached the bank, Alma screamed in horror. The bear, seemingly larger than before, broke through the tree line of the forest and stopped at the river. It let out a roar so loud that Jorick nearly stumbled back into the water. The two fell, but Jorick crawled, screaming for his daughter as he held onto her clothes, pulling her forward. Alma watched in terror as the beast paced back and forth, looking down at the water, seemingly contemplating on whether it would cross. She hoped it wouldn't, but to her dismay, the creature shook with what felt like anger, its eyes glowing purple as it slowly entered the narrow river. And then it roared as if in pain, struggling against the harsh current. But it refused to give up on its prey. It was almost as if it would die before it would let them go. Jorick glanced back with disgust, cursing the beast and screaming for it to just die already as he hobbled away, pulling Alma along with him. After the bear crossed, roared, and struggled past the river, it paused for a moment, catching its breath. Alma looked on in disbelief. The creature somehow appeared smaller, as if parts of it had washed away. But then, as its eyes locked onto the little girl's gaze, it roared with anger and seemed to grow back to its original size. Shaking the water from its shadowy body, it charged at them once more. The beast was fast, and they were slow. Jorick knew it would only be moments before the creature was upon them. He began to pick up speed, using his right leg to hobble forward, as his left just had nothing left in it. Dragging himself and his daughter, the man braced for what was to come, praying that it would be quick. But just as all seemed lost, they broke past the tree line. The trees suddenly parted, revealing what seemed like a mirage. An oasis too good to be true. A large home stood majestically before them, its towers imposing under the morning sun. The gated gardens looked more tended to than anything the bandit had ever seen. It was perfect, with the symbols of the gods displayed prominently, each emblem represented. It was unlike anything Jorick had ever seen. But his awe was short-lived as he looked back, expecting the bear to be upon them. Yet, to his and Alma's surprise, the bear had stopped short just of the statues behind them. It paced restlessly, snarling and roaring in frustration, but it refused to cross onto the estate's land. With one last defiant roar, the creature turned and retreated into the woods from where it came from, leaving the father and daughter in utter confusion and disbelief. Relief surged through Jorick, quickly replaced by overwhelming exhaustion. Injured and weakened and pushed beyond his limits, he collapsed. His daughter fell to his side, shaking him and telling him they were safe, that they made it. Jorick smiled as his vision began to dim, and his mind started to drift. Blood slowly poured from his wounds. He thought to himself that he had done it, that he had saved Alma. But just as his vision faded, he felt her little hand grip his, begging him not to go, pleading with him not to leave her. "Well, what do I do? Please, I don't know this land. I don't know who's in there," Alma cried to her father. Jorick looked back at the door, magnificent and almost inviting. Its wooden carvings seemed as if they had been created by the gods themselves. So beautiful it was to the bandit who had never known art. Looking back at his daughter, the man nodded. "I won't let them take you again," he told her, as he rallied once more. His body no longer felt pain. It was past that. It was broken and numb. Driven solely by the need to stay with Alma, Jorick stumbled toward the door. He fell before the entrance, his fists pounding weakly against it. With nothing left to give, he knocked once more before his hands fell, broken and defeated. His daughter ran behind him, hugging her father tightly as they both waited. As darkness began to overtake Jorick's vision, the heavy doors slowly groaned open, spilling a welcomed warmth from a fire against the father and daughter. The flickering light danced across Jorick's battered form and Alma's fearful face. Uncertainty hung thick in the air. The line between sanctuary and peril frighteningly thin, the bandit thought. Jorick's only concern was the fragile heartbeat pressed against his back. A shadow loomed within the doorway, silhouetted against the comforting glow emanating from the church. Jorick could not tell whether this presence signified salvation or further torment, but his battered spirit clung to one undeniable truth. At least for now, Alma was safe. In that moment, Jorick smiled as the man opened his arms, and with a gentle yet cold smile, welcomed the men. With nothing left and his mission complete, Jorick finally succumbed and passed out, satisfied that he had saved his daughter, at least for now. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that tale of the Bandit and the Bear. So what do you think? Were they saved? Or did they just trade one monster for another? Want more adventures of Jorick? Then check out this video.